everybody comes out of their offices and she's like, I've got Avila. He's been shot. I've got Agent Avila. He's been shot.
I questioned the assignment. There was a lot of activity by the Zetas cartel. 300 murders a month. When you hear your boss say that he's not aware of any security issues in Mexico, it's a problem.
And I'm like trying to grab the phone from her. And she's like, he needs help. He needs help. Agent Avila's been shot. Definitely very fortunate. Everything, the trials and tribulations that we went through, I think ultimately we came out stronger, more united, blessed. We try to find the silver linings in everything.
Together, they're just like a powerhouse of a couple. They balance each other out and they set a great example for both me and my brother in so many capacities.
I look up to them a lot. They have to work so hard for what they have now, and I was blessed to have this life.
I'm first generation Mexican American. My parents are both from Mexico. They came to the United States.
I'm a first generation American. My parents came to the United States illegally. Being born in a border town, you have to kind of adopt two identities. I have family in Mexico, have family in the US. A bit of a struggle growing up, having to show both families that I belong on both sides.
When I graduated college, I decided to be a social worker. I became an investigator with Child Protective Services.
Got a degree in criminal justice, and my first exposure to the criminal justice system was as a state parole officer. So I worked for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice at the age of 22, and that's when you talk about being exposed to the criminal world. I would be doing something during the day, and before I knew it, I'm flipping hamburgers at my house in the evening and thinking, what in the world? This existed in my own town. And I felt warping out of one world into another.
We had a great life.
I thought I was going to be a federal probation officer for 20 years. One day I said, I think I want to be a special agent for U.S. Customs. I got hired, and that's when the Department of Homeland Security was created. They combined the U.S. Customs Special Agents and INS Special Agents, Immigration Naturalization Service, INS, and now known as ICE. I was fortunate to be assigned back to the El Paso field office, which was very advantageous to me because I was from there. And so a lot of the work that I did on both sides of the border, I knew the territory.
Knowing that I was able to save children from neglect, from abuse, from emotional abuse, from sexual abuse, and being able to sleep at night was so gratifying. I loved every single minute of it for 6 years, making sure that kids were safe from their loved ones. Somebody has to do it, right? When Sophia was born, I had a very traumatic incident with a parent of a child that I was investigating. And that really led me to part ways from Child Protective Services. I was no longer being impartial or undetached. I mean, I had a human being growing inside of me, and anybody who touched a child, I became this horrible mama bear, and I was coming after them. And as an investigator, you have to be completely undetached and unbiased. So they moved me on to international adoptions. And so I stayed there for a little bit. It wasn't until Sophia turned 3 that I started looking elsewhere. 6 months later, I was hired on as a pharmaceutical rep. I could be a full-time mom as well, and that's what I needed to be.
And worked a lot of narcotics, then went into human smuggling, human trafficking. I then started doing financial investigations.
And he was hand-selected to go to Mexico. Nobody knew that he was working in Mexico because at the time, Ciudad Juarez was one of the most dangerous cities in the world.
About 300 murders were occurring in that city a month. It opened my eyes completely to a more international aspect of our investigations.
It was surreal, just the amount of massacres and and violence that was happening just right across the border from us. And Victor was knee deep in it. He was asked if he wanted to have a position out there permanently.
Sometimes in your life, the stars align for you in your career, and there was an opening, an opportunity to go and work as a permanent U.S. diplomat in Mexico.
It wasn't a difficult decision to make, but I was thinking about our kids. I was thinking about the opportunities that this would open, but I was also thinking about the safety. But Victor was so excited. He was so excited. And I was so excited for him. I'm like, yes, if you're in, I'm in with you.
And before you know it, we're living in Mexico City.
Everybody thought we were crazy. Sophia was 9, Victor Emilio was 4. That's a huge undertaking and a huge transition. Very exciting, but extremely different. Victor had started traveling a lot. I mean, he was busy.
I was known in the office as, they call me Trips, because I traveled a lot, working like I'd never worked in my life before, ever. Calderon had kind of waged the war on the cartels, a lot of activity in Mexico against the cartels, and so a lot of violence. And I worked throughout, Central America, Mexico, and the United States. I was in charge of the Global Trafficking in Persons Initiative, taking down human traffickers.
Business as usual at home with my kids. They had no idea what their dad was doing.
I'm working all the time. Claudia eventually starts working at the U.S. Embassy as a background investigator.
I got a top security clearance, kinda took me back to my investigator days with Child Protective Services.
It was a struggle for me because I loved my job. I enjoyed it so much, and I disliked what it was doing to my family and the neglect. The balance wasn't there. What I always was able to do in my career, I wasn't able to do it in Mexico. In Mexico, the job consumed me. That was always a struggle with the family, and missing birthdays and missing parties and missing all this personal time. And even when I was at home, I was working. Claudia understood that. She understood that very well and was very supportive. Every time we had a little bit of time off, even on a weekend, she'd plan something for us to do.
We were enjoying our stay in Mexico. Was I naive? No. I mean, I knew it was dangerous. I knew that there was always risk. Did I feel safe? Yes.
My whole intention was to be at the office that week. But around noon, I get a heads up from one of my coworkers saying, hey, they're gonna send you to Monterrey. And I was livid. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I just got here. There's other agents.
Victor had been away for at least a week. He was arriving that Monday on Valentine's Day. And I said, great. I'm going to make reservations at our favorite sushi restaurant. Like, I need a date night with him, and it's, a special day. And so made all these arrangements. He touches down and then goes to work.
Supervisor calls me in and gives me the official assignment saying, I need you and the Special Agent Jaime Zapata, who had just arrived in the country the week before, working a big arms trafficking case. You're gonna go to Monterrey and pick up this equipment.
I get a call, and he tells me, I'm sure you've got something going on for today, but I'm sorry, Claudia, something came up, and it looks like I'm gonna be heading out. Heading out where? You just got here. You told me you were gonna be here. And he's like, well, we'll talk about it when I get home. And I said, well, what time are you gonna get home? And he's like, well, no, I'm not gonna make the dinner reservations. All right, well, I mean, it's early enough that we can do something to salvage this, right? I'm the eternal optimist. That's what they call me. I'm like, okay, let's regroup. There's always a solution.
I'd never been privy to any of the briefings, so I questioned the assignment because I knew, my office knew, the U.S. ambassador knew that there was a lot of activity by the Zetas cartel. The ambassador had issued out an alert prohibiting all U.S. personnel from driving on that highway. And so I'm here thinking, what are we doing driving on the road? Begin with, it was like you just go by yourself. We never went by ourselves. We always had either U.S. escorts, other armored vehicles with us, Mexican military or Mexican law enforcement escort us. Out comes the deputy attaché, and we tell them this, and he says that he's not aware of any security issues in Mexico. Now, when you hear your boss say that he's not aware of any security issues in Mexico, you know it's a problem. But then you can't be insubordinate. And at that point, I was ordered to go, and you're gonna take Jaime Zapata with you. So I start making arrangements with the guys from Monterrey. I get on the phone, and I said, well, we'll drive out tomorrow morning. It ruined our Valentine's Day dinner.
I'm gonna call the restaurant, whatever it is that we were gonna order. I'm just gonna pick it up. Victor should be coming in the door maybe around 7, more or less, 7, 8 o'clock. Like, I've got this. When the kids got home from school, I told them, okay, this is a very special date. This is what we're gonna do. I dressed them in black pants and white shirts. And I told them, you're gonna make a menu. And this is the sushi. So make a menu for Daddy, and we're gonna have fun tonight. The kids were super excited. When Victor arrived, he arrived with some flowers. And the first thing he said is like, God, I didn't get you a gift. And I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. Like, we are gonna have an amazing time, don't worry. Sophia never broke character, and she's like, sir, please step this way, sit down. Tries to push in the chair that he's sitting in. I sit down. The table is set. And he's like, what's going on? Victor Emilio comes out. They were our little waiter and little waitress. I mean, they were just in character the whole time. I mean, it was so beautiful. We had such a great time. Had dessert, and then he tells me there's a delivery that needs to be made. I have to go meet some agents from Monterrey, but it's okay. I'm gonna go and come back. I said, Monterrey? And I'm like, are you sure you're supposed to go there? Because, I just read an alert. And I'm like, Victor, this doesn't sound right. He's like, believe me, I fought it. But when you're told, you're told.
Now it's very stressful in my house. Now Claudia is really questioning the mission here. I didn't want my kids to know that I was going out of town again. And it was early in the morning. Victor was still asleep. I gave him a kiss, and I went to Sophia.
She knows what's going on. Like, you can't put anything past that girl. Because of the way that he was dressed, she knew immediately, like, he was gonna be gone.
And she's like, you're going out of town again. And I lied to her. I said, no, I'm not. My whole intention was to be back that same day.
I kiss him goodbye, and I always give him the bendición, right? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And he's off. The kids go off to school around 10. I went to the embassy. I had a few appointments. I remember somebody yelling. And I was like, what? What's going on? So like everybody comes out of their offices, and she's like, I've got Avila. He's been shot. I've got Agent Avila. He's been shot. And I run out, and I'm like trying to grab the phone from her. And she's like, he needs help. He needs help. Agent Avila's been shot.
8 of them come out.
No one could tell me if he was alive.
We have our hands up like this. They shot over 100 rounds.
This is Victor Avila from ICE. We are shot.
God, please don't take him away.
Shot with an AK-47, bleeding profusely.
I knew he was in trouble when he told me he was going to be on that highway.
This is where my panic and my fear sets in. I thought they were gonna kill me.
We need to be a complete family. What about my kids?
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all-loving, but that He actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about Him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv/donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.